Yahuwah is genetically coded into us.
Well, I must start this teaching by warning. Because in view of the increasing amount of views this article is getting, especially in the United States in its English version, and in view of the increasing amount of criticism I get from people who seem to know a lot about genetics, at least they seem to have a good command of computer research tools such as Google or more recently ChatGPT, I would like to point out that on the one hand, this article is the only text among my 75 teachings whose content and message did not come directly to me from above, but laterally by doing my own researches on the net. But given the relevance of the message and my interest in various scientific fields, I thought it appropriate to write a text to present this interesting phenomenon to my readers. On the other hand, naturally I could not go and verify the veracity of the statements made below, and no team or other scientific authority has naturally come to confirm these assertions. Even if other scientists would have observed it, you can imagine that they would not be in a hurry to share it with the general public. Most of them being atheists, it is absolutely not in their interest. There is therefore no tangible proof of the existence of the name of Yahuwah inscribed and repeated within our genes, just as there is no tangible proof either for the existence of the chords in order to confirm the string theory of quantum physics, and that despite this, hardly anyone questions today, not even me. And it is precisely by basing myself on this string theory, which affirms that the smallest components of matter are tiny little strings which all vibrate at a very specific speed and frequency, and whose successive addition defines the shape, the color, the smell, and all the characteristics of matter, that I persuaded myself of the fact that if man was created in his image, then one of the smallest components of our organism, the one that defines who we are, what is the shape of our body and face, those of our inner organs, those of our eyes and hairs, must naturally and logically vibrate in unison, that is to say at the same rhythm and at the same frequency as the name of our Creator. Knowing the style of our Creator of all, I do not doubt for a second that what I wrote below is very close to reality in one way or another. The geneticist who made this discovery is himself a qualified scientist, in addition of being an Orthodox Jew, therefore a believer in Yahuwah, even if he still refuses to pronounce his name. That being said, I wish you a good read, and I ask everyone to avoid lecturing me and asking me a lot of questions in this subject, which is not my area of expertise. Since I do not wish in any case to repeat myself like a parakeet, here is therefore directly in introduction the main part of the answer to the questions which could arise in your mind. Because you could investigate the internet or biologic literature for years, you won't find any confirmation of these statements, except from the one you can hear from the mouth of the old fellow in the video below. I just wanted to warn you in advance. Rather, I invite you to read and question me about my 74 other texts, of which I vouch and of which I have a much better control and knowledge of the subject in their spiritual depth, and which are much more cardinal questions than this one. Namely, the continuation of the reformation, the return to the original names, understanding how the commandments come to life and are fulfilled in us as a result of our covenant with the Messiah and by the action of Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. These are the subjects that I invite you to come and discuss with me, because our sanctification depends on them. Genes, the building blocks of life. Our genes contain all the information that determines the structure, the shape, the color, the material, etc. of our body, organs, brain, and everything that makes up our person. Deoxyribonucleic acids, DNA, make up the gene chains, which are part of the chromosomes, which are themselves the components of the cells. Scientists have discovered that the deoxyribonucleic acids that makes up our genes come together in such a way that a bridge forms after a certain amount of acids making up a row. These bridges are called base pairs, and this is the process that allows the DNA chains to be linked together, thus creating that particular twisted ladder-like element that is part of the larger chromosome. This type of sequencing determines the information set of our genetics, which we pass on to our offspring. The rate connection of deoxyribonucleic acids is as follows: 10, 5, 6, 5. This means that between the acids adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, a bridge is formed after every 10 acid, then every 5 acid, then every 6 acid, and then every 5 acid again. This connection process takes place constantly in each of our cells and in all living creatures. Numerical value of Hebrew letters. As many of you already know, the Hebrew language does not use special signs to represent numbers. So you use the letters and their combinations to express each number. This is not Kabbalah, mysticism, or any other occult numerology, but simple language and arithmetic. Thus, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, is the number 1. The second Bet is the number 2, and so on. Then, by connecting them, you can create larger numbers up to infinity. 144,000, for example, is written as follows: Yud, Kaf, Mem, Dalet. When the Jewish scientist made this observation, he was amazed. Indeed, he knew and immediately recognized the numerical value of the Hebrew letters of the Eternal's name YHWH, consisting of 4 consonants, which values are exactly the same: Yud 10, He 5, Vav 6, and one more He 5. We are faced with no less a miracle than the discovery of how our Creator Elohim placed His own name as a signature in the innermost part of all living creatures, as most artists have done since then. Scientists have brought to light what is happening in the smallest corners of the observable world, where the name of Yahuwah is repeated and spoken billions and billions of times in every single living being. So now we must talk a bit about the concept of information. Secular scientists compare genetics to a software coding, which defines life and its entire functioning very precisely. And by software, we mean nothing more than a set of information contained in our genes. And information is recognized by specialists in all disciplines as a phenomenon behind which there must be an existing and creative intelligence. Even the most convinced Darwinist scientists admit that information cannot come out of nothing. The former president of Microsoft himself said that human genetics, or DNA, is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created. Since then, the guy has been working on ways to interfere in this human genome. Therefore, all genetic modifications are dangerous. Mostly vaccines, and especially those poisons containing RNA technologies, which are administered to the masses of misled and intimidated people through artificially generated pandemics and the fear resulting from it. Satan's objective is to interfere in this divine bioresonance, to defile it with his own seal and possibly even with his own blasphemous name. These products are nothing more than foreshadows and preparations for the final seal of the beast. It is high time to start resisting. We often hear from unbelievers, and as I mentioned in other writings, I believe they are completely right to ask for such proofs. They often say, "I believe if I see it." Well, here it is. As Paul indicates in chapter 1 of his letter to the Romans, nature and its observation, sciences, are all testifying to the existence and power of the Creator at all levels. I'm going to write from Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to 21. The wrath of Elohim is being revealed from the heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about Elohim is plain to them, because Elohim has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, Elohim's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For although they knew Elohim, they neither glorified him as Elohim nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. They are without excuse indeed, as long as they don't let go of their human tales, their false teachings about Tarzans, King Kongs, and other planets of apes. Because we are still in the time of mercy, and those having faith in the religion of sciences have to be helped out of their fairy world. Thanks to these discoveries and others like this, including the endless amount of evidence uncovered by Christian scientists called creationists, we can show them who are the ones who are really rocking in fairy tales. We, who believe in this Creator whose seal and signature are present everywhere around us, or those who believe themselves to be the derivatives and descendants of all kinds of earthworms and other invertebrate vermin. Heavenly bioresonance. Perhaps in this way, we better understand how important is that this life-giving name is not only stored deep in silently in the depths of our biology. We must become conscious that we cannot live without him. In addition to settling our relationship with Elohim, we must go further and use the original names and titles given by him instead of the false ones. The name of Yahuwah and Yahushua must come out from our mouths and hearts instead of calling upon all kinds of foreign idols: Zeus, Theos, Dios, Dieu, God, Ishtar, and the others. Because the spoken word has creating power, and the uttered name of the Creator has all the more. The entirety of our body and its tiniest level is resonating with the name of Yahuwah. As quantum physics recognizes, everything is resonance and vibration. Thus, if we say and declare the name of our Father as a response to the 10-5-6-5 beat that has originally been implanted in us, this could only create increased restoration, healing, refreshment, and all kinds of other blessings inside of our body and mind. This is the most powerful bioresonance you can ever imagine. If you say the original name, your entire genetics will rejoice. You will finally dance to the same beat with your partner, your spouse, the bridegroom, and not constantly step on his feet and on his nerves with your false beats and jumpings to alien musics. However, our distance from the Father has reached such proportions that we need the Creator to also save us from the captivity of sin which separates us from Him. And we have that promise, Yahuwah saves, which in Hebrew sounds like Yahushua. He is also a bridge between humanity and the Father, just like what happens in sequencing. He is also 10, 5, 6, and 5, Yahuwah's only bridge that leads us back to the Father. For years, the process of millions of believers around the world reverting to using the name of Yahweh has emerged. Although I think there is no doubt that the original pronunciation is Yahuwah, we still say the same thing, since the 4 consonants, which have numerical value and therefore have weight in the spiritual world, are pronounced. Yahuwah, YHWH, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. As you can hear it yourself, it's practically the same, only one last vowel is different. Thanks to Elohim, not only we are not alone, but a large number of Christians around the world, mainly in the English-speaking part, but also in the French, have used the name for decades, and perhaps there is no one left among them who is still scandalized when hearing it. Now, there still remains one title and another name which must be restored by abandoning the use of all their translations into the languages of the nations derived from the ancient gods they worshipped before they knew him. This title and this name is Elohim and Yahushua. But this is going to be the subject of my next video. Until then, I wish you all good sequencings according to the original pattern 10-5-6-5. Yahuwah bless you.